The Belt and Road Initiative doesn't have real power behind? Is that you're telling me?
My friend, the Silk Road is just a historical fact. The Silk Road is not, but it's not important. It's not important anymore.
Transporting merchandise through the Silk Road ways, the Belt and Road.
They are already doing. What is Azerbaijan?
Come on, you don't know what you're talking about. You definitely don't know what you're talking about.
Azerbaijan. Do you hear about Azerbaijan?
Sorry.
Dracu, I mean, how am I getting my spices if they're not coming through there? Give me a break.
Sorry, one more time. I didn't understand you.
He was making a joke.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm getting my spices from the Silk Road, so I don't know what you're talking about. It's obviously open. How would I get my...
What kind of spice do you? I mean,
he's making a joke. It's a joke, Dracu.
It's a joke.
So
during the pandemic, all supply lines were broken through many reasons. Were the containers crisis? Was the ports were closed? It was very problematic. You know what it solved? It's because transporting containers through the Trans-Siberian and Trans-Mongolia through Central Asia puts merchandise in Europe half of the time, half of the price. And this is very important.
Really? You believe that? You believe that?
It's real. It's real, Dracu.
My friend, Brata, just listen a moment. Brata, just listen a moment. The Silk Road is only is only rentable if it's done by air. Okay? So air transport cannot be compared with maritime transport. My friend, listen to me, please. So
we have no choice. We won't shut up.
He's making a good point here. You should listen to him.
The Silk Road is only relevant by air. But air transport is not, only with planes. But air transport is not comparative with the maritime transport. So the Silk Road is just
rail.
Let me
Why
say
are you talking about airplanes? Why are you talking about airplanes? While the Belt and Road Initiative, the road initiative is about train, railways, and also trucks.
Do you know where is going the Silk Road? There is no possibility to do railroads there. Because
they exist.
There is the
Himalaya mountain. Century. I mean, the roads between China and Europe have changed.
But there are these fucking mountains which are called Himalaya.
No, that's only between China and India.
Wyatt wants to say something. Wyatt, please.
Wait. And you can
guys
build
have to let Dracu. Wait. You guys have to let Dracu finish. If not, then we can never get past that one sentence.
When will he finish? When will he finish?
But I never can make a point because you're always interrupting me. So
you guys have to learn how Dracu talks.
So run his mouth for a second so that we can figure out what he's actually trying to say.
Because if you don't let him finish his whole sentence, he will just start to repeat himself many times, and then we will stuck here for 5 minutes repeating the same thing.
No, I don't.
Then he's not listening to you guys also when he's talking.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
So
okay, Dracu,
the Silk Road is only then important when the air transport is more important than the maritime transport, because the maritime transport is so much bigger than the possibilities to transport. Please, Prata, shut your mouth.
I didn't say anything.
No. You
just joking.
By reacting, it also disrupts our hearing. Yeah.
Please. So the maritime transport is so much more important than the transport on the land and the transport on the air together, that we cannot talk about relevance of the Silk Road today, in the today acceptance of the transport matter of the economical, global economical. So that's why the Silk Road is just a bullshit.
Yes, but Draco, the problem is here is not that I agree with you. Of course, I know that a ship
Thank you.
that a ship can transport much more things. The thing is about the bypasses. The Silk Road Initiative is like 4 different bypasses. So it's much bigger than what we think, but it's still a ship can transport much more than a train with 100 carriage, like the ones that go through the Trans-Siberian, which are huge trains. And that's still less than a ship. A ship transports more than 100 containers. That's much for true. But the thing is about the bypassing. It's about having an alternative. Even if it's not big enough, it still exists. You see, and that's losing control over the seas. And that's how, as well, when we see these people like in Egypt, Turkey, it's not Saudi Arabia, but actually are the Sunni countries, and Iran, and they what's their importance? Someone said that they have something in their hands, and they can make the power of the Americans a bit less. The problem is that you're right. Biden is very weak. And he is losing the moment at the moment. I don't think in a year, when the next elections will come, that the person that will arrive will have the power to recover the Biden's mistakes. And everybody's understanding how fast they have to go and changing the status quo. When the new president will arrive, it will be much difficult. So that was my point. But Draco,
Can I ask a question? Now, with the Silk Roads, obviously it's roads and railways. How much is there a plan to standardize the rail lines for all the for a standard train set? Yeah. Is there also plans and have they made areas where they have improved roads? I mean, obviously you're not going to have 4-lane paved highways going through the Himalayas, but I would assume smart people would just go through the passes like we do now. Like in Colorado, when I live there, you can drive over a 14,000 foot pass on a paved highway. You just got to build it a certain way. And I'm just wondering, how much are they planning on having a fairly improved line that trucks would use and rail standardized?
Draco's right. It's all horse shit. When you see the efficiencies involved, Draco is absolutely right. The thing is, what Prada doesn't seem to get is that you've got to compete, right? You've got to compete in international trade and transport. It's so much more expensive to go by land, by rail, even the most efficient rail. It's complete horseshit. Prada, you don't know what you're talking about. Maritime transport is geometric. It's orders of magnitude more efficient. And so you're never going to be able to compete. It's going to be cheaper to sail the longest possible way around than by the shortest way.
How much does it cost a ship to go through the Suez Canal? Do you know?
Please.
$60,000. $60,000 is how much it costs a ship to go through the Suez Canal. It's very expensive.
Draco is spot on with this. Once you've seen the numbers, once you actually, Prada, you're guessing. You don't know. If you did know, you'd know, right? You either know this or you don't. Maritime transport, and this has been true since the Roman times. The Romans when the Romans attacked Germany, they shipped all their heavy equipment all the way around Spain and France and up the Rhine. They didn't take it over the Alps, and they had roads, right? You've got to understand that you can take hundreds of times more traffic for a fraction of the fuel, and you can sail all day and night on the sea because there's no obstacles. Maritime transport is just orders of magnitude more efficient. Drac is right on this.
But why are you talking about the Himalayas? The Silk Road doesn't go through the Himalayas.
Let me explain you what is the importance of the Silk Road. The only importance of the Silk Road is the Silk Road is meant to enclose the Caucasus countries in the market of China. So the Silk Road, the only importance of the Silk Road is just the including of the Caucasus country in the market of China, which cannot be provided by sea. So there can be rentable.
And Malaysia also.
Okay, guys,
rentability.
I think we all need some information.
It has no global.
Let's do like this. Let's do like this. We have this channel. We have this channel. Let's exchange some information about real things about the silk, about these train lines, the quantity, the ability. We also have to talk about the gauges. And you are right, Vaughn. It's very important because the old Soviet countries have a different gauge than in China, which has a European gauge, and an Indian has another gauge. And I think we probably need to take this conversation a bit back to the panel, to the channels, and then know what we're talking about, because there is no Himalayas, there is no. We have also to see the amount of trade, but it's true, Draco. The sea transport is much bigger, but it's not cheaper. It's more expensive.
Please,
this is also
let me also tell you.
There's a lot of.
It's not Draco. Just let other people talk for a second, because I want to answer you as well.
I want to ask a question.
I know a lot about it. I can explain, but it takes long.
So basically, the Silk Road, you could say, at best, it's not efficient, and it's a backup plan, and it helps internal domestic shipping of goods in that region internally. It really isn't going to do anything great for China to like Moscow. It's more like everywhere in between regional areas, and it's if something was to happen like a war or sanctions or something where you couldn't use a certain transportation route or air routes, it would suck to use it, but you could still ship by, like it's a backup plan. It works for local people. It works for the locals, but in the big picture, it's a backup plan at best.
And it also lets them. It's not just rail. Like there's some rail that goes to alternate ports, bypassing.
There's ports. Points. Yes, it's by sea as well.
Yeah, it's really big. So
where is sea? Where is there sea?
Like through Pakistan.
I posted a link. What you should do, Draco, is you should read that link, follow that link that I posted, and actually read about it. Because why do you think China is investing their diplomatic capital and their actual capital and trying to make deals with countries that are going to be along this road? It matters, right? You can't say that, okay, this is nothing. Okay, I hear you guys that it's never going to be as efficient. Hold up, let me answer you now, right?
Yes.
So, okay, you guys make a great point, right? You're never going to achieve the same level of efficiency as you are with a full maritime route and stuff like that. That's despite the point, though. To China, that the New Silk Road is, it's their, it's like you can't isolate them by the sea anymore, right? You can't just do that plan that we have of just like, well, we can cut off all of your maritime routes, right? And then you're screwed. Well, China doesn't want, they're thinking ahead, like they're thinking decades ahead with this. So, and the New Silk Road does include ports as well. There's maritime routes as well.
And it doesn't even inside land ports. I sent
a link in chat. I sent a link in chat. Read it.
Yeah,
you'll see. There's a picture that shows you.
We are
dry ports.
Where's the problem?
The biggest dry port in Europe is in Würzburg. It's an immense port of dry things just for the Trans-Siberian to China in Duisburg. If you want to go look at in Europe, Duisburg is an immense thing.
Germany.
Do you say the Silk Road is going to Europe? You know where the end of the Silk Road is? In Azerbaijan. No, my friend, in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is the center.
No, confusing things, Draco.
Okay.
The Belt and Road is different than the ancient Silk Road.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to jump in. I want to jump in. I want to jump in. The most stuff coming from China to Russia in their business are going by train and by road.
Yes.
China and Russia just built a bridge between the Amur River.
Yeah, but this is not Silk Road. This is another road.
Please. You can't have infinite number of ships, but you can have many multiple numbers of train on the same track. And train and trucks are going on a straight line to their destination at a fast speed. things.
80,
Stuff from China going.
Please,
Preta, a thing from China going to Europe takes about 30 days, 1 month, let's say. By train and road, it takes only 2 weeks. And that's what will change the thing. Yeah, because a truck can go at 80 kilometers an hour, something like that, on a proper road, maybe 90. Yeah, a ship is going way more slower. Even the biggest container ships, which have big turbines, they don't go at that speed.
It goes 40 kilometers per hour.
The entire seas and oceans.
Okay. Arel, do you know why the Silk Road ever became relevant for the Chinese?
It's even more than a backup stuff phone, because how can you reach countries that have no seaports, like Central Asian countries or the Caucasian countries, as you mentioned before? Yeah, by road.
Okay.
Here, let me
rail tracks, railways.
I want to hear Tarif's input on this. I want to hear somebody that actually knows something about the economy.
I just want to ask a question real quick. You know, with the expense of having those rail lines and road lines and keeping them, let's say, at a certain standard to, you know, wouldn't Russia and China also, since you're going to have stuff going back and forth, say, hey, Kazakhstan, if you maintain this section of rail to this standard, you know, we'll give you a 10% break on the oil coming back, or you get X amount of this shit. You know what I mean? That way they're maintaining friendly relationships along the line. Everybody's getting a piece of the action. There's a reason for the country to invest in the crew to keep their part of the line going. They're getting economic benefits from it. So, I mean, I could see over time it developing into something, and it, even if it is a backup, it still kind of works to Russia and China's favor, because they can basically go along that whole southern route, making friends and making deals like, hey, you need coal, you need this, you need that. You can't, you know, you do this for us, you take care of the road. We'll give you a break on the price of this, or we'll give you this much shit for free. Look what they're doing with Africa.
Can we let Tarif answer that first?
So I would just assume that would be a natural progression of that along the way, or if they're not already doing it.
Von and Prata, my only point about Silk Road was that Silk Road is not relevant on a global level. Silk Road is just relevant local. For China, relevant global is the maritime transport. They are trying now to take the Nord route too.
Couldn't you say it's global though if they secure a block of friendly nations in the southern part, Southwest Asia? I mean,
guys, can I answer the question? I just want to say,
and then Toby. Let's let Tarif speak, and then Toby. Come on, please.
All right, Tarif.
Gentlemen, you guys are making very, very persuasive arguments. Dracu, your train of thought, not a bad thought, but I just want you to just emphasize on the philosophy of the world as we are right now. We are not at a world of security. Right now, we are at a world of insecurity. And in this layer, the entire nature of trade operates in a very, very different dimension, because trade is no longer a function of trust right now. Trade is a function of necessity. And land-based trade has always been expensive, all right? No ifs and buts about that. But trade is always very well protected over land. That is the most important thing. You can lay down millions upon millions of S-400s, ICBMs all across the railroads of Eurasia. And they're functional, and they're operable, and they will be a legitimate defense to any future endeavors in Eurasian battles. That is the way I would like you to think about the way the politics and the war is going to function in our lifetime. Because it's the Silk Road. Yes, if you look at the global trade as a function of the dollar-based system, you will think of it as a less valuable and as a less viable system. But you have to think about the fact that right now, Eurasia is 2/3 of the world. And most importantly, it is right now at that geopolitical will where it is wanting to assert itself. Okay? So you can talk about the viability of it and how one might prevail and one might not. But that is where the chess game becomes a game of statistics and probability. But this is happening. China has built and operated a bullet train network through Central Asia at a loss for like almost 10 to 12 years, over a decade, in anticipation of the fact that these trade routes will become necessary, not profitable, but necessary, and profitability through necessity. And we are at an age right now where the Central Asian network is entirely going to be used for rare earth minerals. The entire geopolitics of that region will be based on the electronics industry. And this is why, even though it might not seem viable to you right now, it is going to be the definitive event where the war will happen in the 2030s, in this decade. And this is where I'll stop my rant.
Toby, next.
Okay, I just want to say some basic things about maritime transport versus road and rail, right? It's not that hard to understand. This is basic math. A truck can carry 10 tons, 20 tons of load, right? That's the order of magnitude. A train can carry hundreds of tons because it has 10 or more carriages of each 10 tons. A ship can carry tens of thousands of tons, right? And it doesn't matter where you go in the world. If you've got a river and a port, you can get there in a month. And so what you've got to understand is, because it's orders, not one order, but many orders of magnitude more efficient on a ship, you're talking about almost the same amount of fuel as well being used to move a large train as to being used to move a ship, right? So even if it takes 2 times as long to move by ship, you're saving 500, 1,000 times as much money. And what you need to think about is, when we're talking about moving coal and grain and gravel and sand, right? These are things that get consumed in the thousands of tons every day, right? When you're talking about the trade of whole nations, this happens all the time. It's just ongoing. It's a never-ending bill. And so if you're using rail and road, right, you've already lost. It's like, if you're using maritime transport instead of rail and road, you won, right? Because if you're having to use rail and road to move your bulk commodities, right, that means you already lost the last war, right? So this idea that road and rail are ever going to be a method of achieving power, it mistakes the nature of the world economy, and especially the transport of bulk materials.
You have to explain me
That's
how
why
Russia...
maritime powers have always controlled the globe.
Yeah, Toby, you have to explain me.
That's not true.
Toby, you have to explain me how Russia is sending all its coal, all its gas, all its oil to China.
Okay, I will do that, right? If you have a look at Russian power, it largely relies on the Volga and the Dnieper, right? It's the rivers that link all of the central cities in Russia, and they move nearly all of their commodities by ship, right? Russia is crisscrossed by huge rivers. Have a look at Transnistria. Why do you think Russia has got such massive stockpiles on the Dniester River, right? Because China? Listen, this is in... No, just listen for a minute instead of interrupting. Listen, you might learn something. The reason that Russia has got its major stockpiles of heavy equipment on the Dniester River is because that river allows them... Prater, please, don't interrupt. Just listen. You might learn something. The reason that it's in Transnistria is because they can ship all of their heavy materials by maritime transport from anywhere in the Russian river systems all the way up into the westernmost point of Europe on the Dniester, right? That's why it's there. It's because it's on a river, right?
That river is not sailable. That river is not sailable.
My only point was that, like Tariff said, I just look at it as a backup route, a supply route that's a necessity at some point, possibly, and it being very hard to interdict or mess with because of the location and
road and rail go from port to inland.
I'm not arguing about how much stuff. I agree totally. Shipping and all I'm saying is if you're desperate and that's what you got, it's there, and it's something that the United States and a lot of other countries with carriers would have a hard time reaching. You'd have to send. I'm just saying it's a nice little backup.
Okay, So I think
that's all I'm saying is that if you're desperate, it's a good backup plan.
I think we got Toby's general point here. Let me take this just a second to try to read from China's own website, ChinaHighlights.com, why they think it's important. And they write, plans are brewing for the reinitiation of the Silk Road overland trade. Chinese government leaders keep announcing big plans about train and highway routes to Europe. Now, about 40 railway lines connect Europe and China. The Chinese freight shipments can now reach England. These trains travel overland in 18 days. This is much faster than ships that take a month to go to the distance of Europe. China is also building harbor facilities, ports, as well as railway facilities in key places around the world. It is estimated that the expenditures amount to hundreds of billions of dollars a year. These transportation facilities make exporting products more economical and are designed to help China's industrial production and wealth increase substantially. It doesn't have to be competitive worldwide. China sees this as something that is going to boost China. They see it as something that's going to connect them to Iran and Russia, like civilizations, right? That they think it's important for those reasons.
Remember, guys, during the pandemic, there was problems of the container problems. You remember the container problems? Containers were coming to Europe and were not coming back because nobody was emptying them. So there was a problem that ships couldn't bring anything because there was no containers. Turkey was actually producing wood boxes in order to ship their stuff. So that was a problem. Then we had the problem of the pandemic with many harbors in China closed. So after China closed, the supply lines got stuck. There was the problem about the ships stopping in the middle of the Suez Canal, and that created queues, huge queues. At that moment, they proved. So is that you understand? It's not the option. It's a complementarity. A complement. And what happened was that China proved, and that made the United States very scary. That's why you have to understand that they proved that they could bring merchandise to Europe faster and actually cheaper because they actually rationalized the whole process to the way. They have dry harbors. Dry harbor is a place where they can change merchandise to different types of a lorry, a train in a very fast way. Just like we have nowadays the big harbors, where they inside of 1 hour they can discharge a big ship, one of those huge ships. There are just a few of them. There's just a few harbors in Europe that they can actually hold these huge ships, and they have to bring the containers in extreme fast way. This is all to computers, and they do it very fast. They also do this inland, and they manage to transport merchandise through China, through Harbin in the north of China, or the Trans-Siberia, or through Mongolia, or through Central Asia. There are 3 bypasses. They never go through to Himalayas. And what they proved is that they can, with this system, somehow compensate if there is a problem in the supply line. So Van was very, very, very correct in what he was saying. This is very important as a complement. And then Dulwich is just left. It was a pity. But this is what we have to understand why the Belt and Road, this initiative is very important. Now we have also to see another project that the Russians are starting, which is the North-South international corridor that links India to Russia, disconnected from China.
Iran.
It's very, and you, Draco, you're very correct. For instance, this is an incipient project, but the Chinese project is huge. They can really transport huge amounts of merchandise. It doesn't compensate, but it's a complement, a very important complement. And they can really transport huge amounts of merchandise, even coal. Toby was talking about coal. Coal nowadays is almost just transported by train from Russia to China, not by boat anymore. But anyways, the north-south corridor is very interesting because it's just starting. It already works, but the number of trains that can go in the track, because Iran has very bad trains, because whatever, they are still small. They are improving it. In 10 years, these lines will be huge. And they have already 3 bypasses. And the idea of bypasses is very important. It's not just a line. There are several lines. One goes through Central Asia. The other one goes by sea, by the Caspian Sea, and cuts direct from Russia to Iran. The other one goes through Azerbaijan. That is, if one of the 3 becomes too smart and decides to cut, they have options. The Chinese started thinking about that. They always have bypasses. If one side is cut, they immediately have another one to go through. And this is very intelligent, but just as a compliment. And we have been losing time talking about the idea that one will supplement the other. No, that won't happen. It's a compliment. I give you another idea for you to understand. Sorry if I'm talking too long. If the train goes through, I'm finished. I'm finishing. And I could not finish.
Come on, let me finish.
If the train goes to Russia, to Belarus, and the Polish guys, they are very slow in changing the gauge. The trains just go to Kaliningrad, change to a ship, and goes to Germany. It's amazing how they do it. It's very intelligent. And I finished.
Okay.
My only other thing is, like I said, it's a backup route. And then if what Bradley was saying, about them having 18 lines that run there in 18 days and all that. I mean, I can think of one good reason to have that system and then actually improve it and make it better. If there's that much stuff going to Europe, according to China, what are you going to do the next time you have some female captain driving a boat and then she jams it in the Suez Canal, the Evergreen?
Yes, that's the point.
Okay.
I mean, how many days of shipping? How much shipping in tonnage was backed up because of that until it was cleared? And I'm not saying that they wouldn't work hard to get it out of the way, but if something happens, what if a war broke out between Israel and Syria, Egypt, and somebody sunk a couple barges in the Suez and it's shut down? What are you gonna do? Sail around the Horn of Africa now to get to Europe? And so, I mean, like I said, it makes sense as a backup, and it seems like there's plenty of incentive for countries along the way to make sure that their section is up to speed so they can benefit as much as possible from it, or offer as much, like, hey, you can't get to a port from this country, but hey, come over here, we got the hookup. So it just seems like there's a lot of incentive for the region and the area. Is and by default that will affect the global politics, because you'll have these stable regions that might be prosperous along these trade routes, and the bigger countries can use those trade routes to get around sanctions and other problems they see. Same with the Arctic line, where the Chinese are building all the icebreakers. I mean, they'll probably still run oil and gas from the Arctic there. That has nothing to do with sanctions. But again, if somebody starts fucking with them, they can just go around that way.
Say it again.
I just think it's all just backups. Like, it's just redundancy, and people are smart enough to realize that we need to have backup plans in route A, B, and C so that we can make sure we feed our people. I'm not arguing about the tonnages or anything. I know air travel's good. I know shipping's good, but I'm just saying it seems like you'd want why not have all of it? Why not have as many options as possible so you can stay as efficient and, so you can basically take care of what you got to take care of.
Efficient and independent.
May I have 2 minutes? May I have 2 minutes? Because I want to explain. No, I have to explain this because I am in the center here. So
just a small thing. I just want to add. Just
yes, your turn.
You must also don't forget that the efficiency of a transportation also is dependent on the stuff you are shipping. I mean, there is nothing better for gas than a gas pipe. There is nothing better for oil than an oil pipe. And for transportation of food, there is nothing better than plane, because food can perish, so it needs to be very fast. Voilà.
Okay. So the initial saying was that the Silk Road will change the economical situation in the world, because the Silk Road will get more important than the maritime circulation of the. This was Prata. You said that quarter of hour before. 15 minutes ago you say that. So don't change every 5 minutes what you are saying. Because you are doing that. Oh yeah, 15 minutes ago you said the Silk Road will be the most important economical way to ship the wares on the for China. And now you are saying no. It's just a complemental. Yes, that's what I said. I said that Silk Road is just complementary, not you. So please don't make here. Don't take things that I said and then do like you said that. Okay. That's what I tried to say.
Hey, what up, Dan?
What's up, guys?
Dan just said like a super long train route. So ask him. He's the expert.
He's the train. He's actually
Are you in
the train
Moscow?
expert.
Are you in Moscow, in Siberia?
No, I came back to Siberia. I just have to say this. What I've seen traveling the Trans-Siberian Railroad is something that you could not imagine. It is such a precise system where they're moving oil, they're moving lumber, they're moving other things which I can't say. And it's to the minute. Here in Russia, what you pay 100 rubles. The government says, give us 100 rubles. If we're late by 1 minute, you get 1,000. So that shows the importance of this route. And this is thousands of people and an insane amount of material. And this is not only going towards Russia. Okay, we have the Mongolian connection. We have the Chinese connection. And I just want to get off this topic and move on to just know that they use their railroads very efficiently, and they use it in a way that if they didn't have it, a lot of things would collapse. And that's just how it works.
Gonna be more efficient than pack mules.
I mean, you could just imagine the mechanized pack mules of modern era, in my opinion. That's it.
I just remember another interesting project, which is called the Agropoezd, which means something like agricultural train. And yes, I don't drink too much. And it's like a fridge train, a fridge wagon that connects to all the passenger trains or merchandising trains. There are several cities that have these points where the trains connect immediately in less than 50 minutes. And people from Central Asia can bring their fresh products, yes, and bring it to them. It has been a revolution, like you guys have no idea, inside of Central Asia. Small farmers starting getting more money for their products. You see, and how do you get that, Toby? Through extreme precise measurement and control of logistics. It's impressive what they do. They really do amazing things. And I was very impressive because the number goes by millions of tons now already. Sorry, it was just...
I just wanted to say that I want to hear what Dan has to say since he's been gone. Trains are cool. Silk Road's cool. Ships are cool, but let's get to Dan.
No, I just think that the amount of things you guys went through is really cool. I like to listen to your guys' conversation. I was off just listening to you guys, and like I think that we kind of downward spiral in some topics, and we end up fighting. I just had to get on because you guys were yelling at each other.
Yeah, I think Toby made a really good point, and he basically that it's not competitive, right? The train is not going to be, semi trucks are not going to be competitive with like maritime shipping. And then Prada is trying to make the point that that's almost irrelevant. You know, okay, maybe there's some issue of efficiency. That doesn't matter. It's going to be more efficient than a pack mule. If there's an artery there, you know, and if it costs 5 times the amount to ship, you know, I don't know, your iPhone, and the iPhone costs 5 times more by the time it gets to the other end of the One Belt, One Road or whatever it is, it's still an option. So, and China thinks that that's important. China looks at this like an existential project. I read off to you what their opinion is on it. They care about it. They have to expend billions of dollars, lose money on it, expend political and actual and human capital, you know? So.
Yeah, they obviously
care in this one.
I just think about it this way. The very reason AUKUS as an organization exists is because the West needs the combined navy of 3 countries to match People's Liberation Army Navy right now. The biggest thing China right now that it has like over the West is productivity. It can build ships up the wazoo for the next 10 years, which means shipping disruptions is inevitability. It's a question of like when it happens, right? And when shipping disruptions do take place due to naval, let's say, escalations, how much do you think the price of shipping is going to be? And who's going to have a plan B? Like, who's going to unite Eurasian trade when shipping becomes unreliable? That's the only reason it exists. Like, the Chinese government thinks in like 50 years and 100-year terms. And that's the kind of thinking, that's the kind of like deep thought in geopolitics. It's what's missing in the West right now. Like you said, Toby, it's the infantilization of politics. They're thinking in 4-year terms about popularity contests, while like China is thinking in 10-year terms, 20-year terms. And that's the reason these projects exist. It's not a question about profitability right now. It's a question about profitability when a disruption happens, like COVID.